Sanja Iveković gives her exhibitions normally the names of her works. The exhibition that we are now at, the title of it is The Works of Art. The Works of Art is her work from 2001 and relates to the page from New York Times, where on the one page there were two images that attracted her attention. One, the advertisement of the necklace with heart-shaped pendant, and the other, the image from the Sarajevo market massacre from '94, with a woman's face full with blood and a man who is obviously helping her, taking her to the hospital. So this work actually relates to the cynicism of today's society, of the media, and I can say that from 2001 to today, the media haven't really changed. So today we can find a similar situation when we have war in Europe. You know, we have the images from the war together with the advertisements as it was in New York Times at that time. So the title, it is, I would say, very telling title also for the narrative that I, as a curator of the exhibition, wanted to create around her works. So I would say that there are three important points that we can relate to the issue of art. So one is that today we need more art. So it is about urgency we feel, especially from the pandemic on, from the lockdowns when we were like isolated, alone, so on. Many people died. Today we have a war in Europe in 2015. The refugee crisis started. So we have a lot of different crises that are very, fastly changing each other, and we don't really have time to consume, to digest what the crises are about. But what is clear for all those crises is that there is, we can recognize stronger need for care, for solidarity, for love of other. So this is one line I would say that the exhibition relates to the title of this work. Another line, it is more, I would say, critical. It is more ironical, and it refers to the sentimentality as a stereotype of women. So, for example, we have one work there on the video, General Alert, that presents the Latin America soap opera that was on national Croatia television during the war in Croatia. And time to time there is text, General Alert, that somehow announces that something terrible can happen, a bomb attack or something like that. And there are scenes where women, the characters in that soap opera, are in their very exaggerated emotional situations. So it is an interesting relation between war and how the women are perceived during the war. You know, the same sentimental, useless, and today, you know, when we have Ukrainian war, we know that men are forbidden to leave the country, only women can. So there is still a big difference between how the women are treated also in such atrocities as the wars are. The third line I would like to relate to the works of art is the heart as a metaphor of life, of our active presence. And the active presence I think is something that is very important to mention while we are talking about Sanja's work and while we are talking also about the particular exhibition works of art. It means that this exhibition is not only a retrospective. So it doesn't show only the works from the 1974. We have two works, the oldest works are from that year to today. So it's not only an overview about her history, professional history, but it is also a work that works today. So it is very much about the actual situation. For example, here on the floor, we have the text that reports on the violation against especially migrant and refugee women. And the text Sanja got in collaboration with the project against women refugees, as I mentioned before. So it's a report from that project. And the text is actually a shadow report. And the shadow report means that there are in each country different NGO organizations that somehow overview what is going on with violation of different human rights, women's rights, and they make a report that is that is supplement to the official reports that each country does. So Sanja, wherever she exhibits, she very often do the collaboration with the NGO organizations and do the same installation with these red papers, crumbled papers, with the text on 2 pages about the report on the violation of women's rights. Active presence in Sanja's work means that she always collaborates with the people, with the organization, with associations that are somehow related to the issues that she is dealing with. Here the exhibition starts with the Women's House. Women's House project started in 1998 and it is ongoing project. So here when we enter the exhibition, we almost enter the installation, Women's House. And the Women's House from 98 is about 26 stories that Sanja got in collaboration with different NGOs for women in Zagreb, in other places. So there are stories from Croatian women, from Bangkok, from different places about abuses that happen in behind the walls of the homes. So it is very important to mention here that violation doesn't happen only in public space. It doesn't come from the refugees, as in last years, you know, we were hearing a lot of stories about raped women and so on. So it was kind of anti-refugee propaganda. So here mostly we learn about what is happening in the families. So the victims of violence that happened in their homes are here presented with their masks, plaster masks. And the plaster masks were created in the workshops that Sanja Iveković initiated together with NGOs, other women's organizations. So the women trusted the artists, their stories, and each of the stories is presented related to the individual portrait. And here I would say also it is important to see the faces as the portraits and at the same time as anonymous faces. So the masks that covered individual faces are actually the masks that somehow cover also the identity of the women that are portrayed here. So it is about a very strong ethical position of the artist who always, when she works with the victims, she always first works with the organizations who are in permanent touch, and the role is to help that women. So she doesn't speak, the artist doesn't speak in the name of the victims, but there are always a mediator, an NGO, or people who are really involved permanently in the different situations. And on the other hand, also the identity of the women. So there is another work from the project Women's House. The project Sunglasses belongs to the Women's House ongoing project, and it is about again working with different NGO organizations in different countries. The countries are mentioned and the organizations on the red line in each of the images, and the images are taken from different women's magazines, and they obviously advertise the sunglasses. A beautiful model that seduce with their mysteries on their faces, and with their beauties. On the same images there are stories, there are names of the women that trusted that stories. As in the Women's House, the installation we saw before, the same goes for this work. So the women are actually anonymous, the names are fictive, but the stories are concrete and actual. So the stories are about different situations, about the violence against women, again, very often happening in their homes. There is also a report from Poland, for example, which is not so closely related to other stories as violence behind the walls of their homes, but it is about abortion. Abortion in Poland is forbidden. So there is a story, a tragic story that tells us what happens with a woman when she's not allowed to do an abortion. The play and the ambiguity of the glasses is important here. So on the one hand, there are the beautiful girls with the glasses that cover their eyes, where and how they look. And at the same time, they could cover the traces of the aggression. The exhibition Works of Art starts with the work that is about the artist's heartbeat. In 1977, Sanja Iveković did a project in Gallery Tomaseo in Trieste, where she was meeting each of the visitors at the opening in the office of the gallery. She was wired, and her heartbeat was transmitted, and the visitors in the gallery could hear her heartbeat on the loudspeakers. So the next day there was an exhibition that presented audio and photographic record of the event. So what Sanja Iveković wanted to do with this work is to create an exhibition as a place of encounter, with the visitors. So she wanted to create a situation where visitors could have a role. They can be more active, their presence more visible. Also for other works of Sanja Iveković, it's important to mention that they are, among other things, also the places of different encounters. Here we have images taken from the women's magazines with the world famous models like Linda Evangelista and other very known, internationally recognized models with the names of different women who are mostly unknown. In former Yugoslavia, they were at least very known in socialism. After some of them, the factories were named as a textile factory in Croatia, Nada Dimic. It was the time when the heroines from Second World War were respected. They had their place in the local histories. So after the end of Yugoslavia and after the end of socialism, the strong processes of marginalization, even erosion of the history from the Second World War, the position of women in the history, in the anti-fascist movement started. So in 2001, the work presents it is from 2001. So the work tells us how important it is that the young generation of women who mostly read the magazines with this kind of imaginary can learn about the histories of their grandmothers, mothers. So on the last image here, this is not a model, this is Sanja Iveković's mother, Nera Šafarić, who was taken to Auschwitz, where she spent 3 years. And here she is presented as one of the models. First, Sanja Iveković presented the project in the Croatian Argzin magazine. So Sanja Iveković often changes the formats of her works. So she is, of course, the artist whom we know from different exhibitions and artistic contexts. But at the same time, she is very much related to the public space. So she works directly with the media, in the streets, with the people. So it is about the same work that sometimes changes the format, as it is the case here in the work Gen XX. Here we have 3 works that relate to the question of revolution. The faith of the revolutionaries, idealism of revolution, and a tragedy of the revolution. So here we see the work Lady Rosa of Luxembourg. Sanja Iveković in 2001 did a replica of Golden Lady, the statues, a memorial in the center of Luxembourg. The artist changed 3 things that are important to be mentioned here. The Golden Lady in her replica is pregnant. Then she changed the text on the plinth. In original sculpture, in memorial, on the plinth there are the names of the soldiers from the First World War that sacrificed their lives for the victory. And the artist also changed that text, and here we can read her text, like Madonna, Virgin, Culture, Kitsch, L'Indépendance, La Liberté, you know, all these things that somehow juxtapose different different values. One of very important works of Sanja Iveković from 1979, Triangle, she did in the Zagreb, on the balcony of her home. So here we can see Sanja Iveković reading the book and pretending masturbation. And below her balcony in her street there is Josip Broz Tito in an open car. And across the street on the top of the hotel there is a person who obviously was in the contact with a policeman, security guard, who very soon came to ring on the Sanja Iveković door and asked the artist to move the persons and the objects from the balcony. So what Sanja Iveković wanted to say, it's not only about, socialist society, surveillance, control, but also about situation that we are experiencing today. I believe that something like that in the United States can happen as well. So it is about the condition, not only of the artist, but of all of us, where we are constantly controlled.